For people who are not vaccinated, lockdown rules will apply to everyone 16 and above.
Doesn't the bill just make a mockery of the idea of American citizenship, though?
In a memo to staff, offenses like marijuana misdemeanors, prostitution, and fare evasion will no longer be prosecuted.
Non-citizens voting in elections, at least locally for now, hopefully never at the federal level. DEAs are suffering from wokeness around the country in Australia. I know we've talked about them losing their minds a lot, but they have effing lost their minds. All of that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob. That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from a dingy bunker completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live on today. It is January 1st, the year of our Lord 2022. We've got a lot of great stuff for you coming up today. You can vote now if you're a non-citizen. You don't need to be a citizen to vote, at least in some areas of the United States. DAs are suffering from crazy wokeness, especially in Manhattan. We've got a lot of New York stories today, but I feel like it's indicative of the rest of the country and the liberal wing of the country. And then I believe in laboratories of democracy, so we're going to take a pretty good look at one of the laboratories of democracy, New York City. The woke DAs there, but also Australia has gone nuts, which I only bring up because I don't know that we're that far away with what Australia is doing. I got to get to this. This is holy cow. You may have seen this video. I've got about a minute and a half long video of the Minister of the Northern Territory, the Chief Minister of the Northern Territory of Australia, one of the provinces there, setting some COVID lockdown guidelines that don't make any sense whatsoever. I considered sending them an email. There's no way they're going to get back to me and having them on the show just to ask, dude, why? I'm going to stop jabbering about it. I'm going to play this clip, then we're going to discuss on the other side. I'm going to tell you all of the I've got all of the rules that they've got right here, but let me play this thing. Tell me what you think. And seriously, I'm curious, in the comment section, how close do you think we are to becoming like this? This is absolutely bananas. Watch this.
I will now go through each of these decisions. First, the lockout. The fully vaccinated can continue as they were. For people who are not vaccinated, lockdown rules will apply to everyone 16 and above. If you are not fully vaxxed, stay home. You are at greater risk of catching COVID, becoming ill, and needing hospital care. You may only leave home for 3 reasons. Medical treatment, including COVID testing or vaccination. For essential goods and services like groceries, power tokens, medications. To provide care and support to a family member or person who cannot support themselves. You cannot travel more than 30 kilometres from your home when leaving for one of the 3 reasons, or the nearest practical destination. If you need to go to the hospital and it's more than 30 kilometres from your home, that's okay. There are only 3 reasons to leave the home now, not 5. Work is not a reason to leave the home for the unvaccinated. The Chief Health Officer has also determined that restriction of movement is critical right now and that 1 hour of exercise for the next 4 days is not essential. What? Remember, these restrictions only apply to those who are not fully vaccinated.
So that is the Chief Minister of the Australian Northern Territory laying out a bunch of rules that don't really make any sense. The Northern Territory went into a 4-day extreme lockdown. Not if you've got the shot, by the way. If you got the shot, you're perfectly safe. Even though we know that you can still spread it and can still get sick and all of the things that you can still do, even if you don't have the shot. So there's that. None of those things make sense, yet Australia went into full-blown lockdown in the Northern Territory. And get this, for those 4 days, going to work was not essential, which I'm not entirely sure how that works out, especially if you don't have the shot. The only things we were allowed to do is go to the hospital, take care of somebody in need, and get groceries. The last part of the clip, you heard him say, you can't even work out. That's not essential. No, CNN finally hinted at the fact that if you're in shape and lose weight, you have much lower risk of dying from the CCP bat fever. But we're going to ignore all of those things because we're following the science. Then the minister also said, well, this is limiting movement is absolutely critical. Here's the thing that I would like to ask people like this, and I sound like a broken record. We've repeated this over and over and over again. Why? What good is any of this doing? Other than giving more power to people who want more power. I guess that's not a good thing, but that's what it's doing. What are we accomplishing here? The Chief Minister, Michael Gunner, I'm going to call him Mike. People, Chief Minister Gunner, nah, Mike, it's Mike. Mike said, unlike previous lockdowns, the unvaccinated would also be banned from going outside to work or exercise. Wait a minute. Every single person... the people who don't have the shot can't even go to work or exercise outside. You need to stay in your home, which is if you live with someone who's got the CCP bat fever, that's the worst possible thing you can do. But we're gonna leave science at the door here when we're talking about Australia. The lockout will last until 12 p.m. on Monday, so again, it's only a 4-day thing. But when then a vaccination passport system will be introduced, Mr. Gunner, Mike, said fully vaccinated residents will not be affected by the lockdown. Again, the question that I have for him and all of your other lockdowny politicians and leaders is why? What are we accomplishing? All of these science, by the way, especially with the Omicron variant, like it or not, you're going to get it. I probably already had it, but everybody's going to get the Omicron variant. That's just what pretty much everybody's saying. Gottlieb, Fauci, even all of these people are saying you're going to get the Omicron variant. So if you're going to get it, and one, the symptoms aren't nearly as bad, thankfully, as the other variants. But if you're going to get it regardless, and pretty much all of the scientists agree, this thing is super transmissible. The cloth mask thing doesn't work. None of this is all, again, not like right-wing extremists saying this. No, this is your lefty scientists saying this. Everybody's going to get the Omicron. So if everyone's going to inevitably get it anyway, what the heck is the point of locking down at all? But again, reason has left the unfortunate country of Australia. I saw this comment while we were on there. Chuck said, January 1st, isn't this live? I don't know if I made a mistake. It is live. It is January 10th. I should hold up a newspaper. It is January 10th. So I'm not sure if I messed up at the beginning of the show, so I apologize for that. But yes, this is live. We're doing it live, and I can read some of these comments on air as much as we can get to it. Let me see what I want to get to. Let's go to this. Non-citizens can vote in New York City. I've got a great clip of Jake Tapper asking some pretty harsh questions of the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, and also some statistics that show you this is going to sway some elections. A lot of people are going to be able to vote in New York City that are non-citizens, which... well, we'll play all that clip. But before I do any of that, I got to tell you about this. You've seen prices go up all over the place. And, you know, even the lefty media is now admitting, well, inflation is actually real. At the beginning, right, we all remember this. Well, if you don't include gas prices, food, energy costs, retail products, you don't include any of that, then inflation isn't all that bad. If you don't include any of the prices for any of the things that Americans actually buy, inflation isn't all that bad. But of course now, even the people that were saying this is transitory are walking this back. Inflation is real, it is here to stay. It is at the highest point in the last 40 years. And how can you protect your savings? Because like we've mentioned, inflation is just an invisible tax on your savings. Well, you can back your savings with gold. If you have an IRA, if you have a 401k, you can convert those into a gold-backed IRA. And the best way that you can do that is with our friends at Birch Gold. You might be thinking, I have no idea how to invest in gold. Which, yeah, I didn't know how to invest in gold either until I learned how to invest in gold. Well, how do I learn how to invest in gold? You can text JOBOB to 989898. And our friends at Birch Gold will send you a full-blown packet on what you need to know. Because, again, you can't just trust Google to give you information on this sort of stuff. The Google is in the pocket of the big inflation people. It seems like they're pulling for inflation. So Birch Gold is a trusted A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Fantastic company. Everything you need to know. All you need to do is text JOBOB to 989898. You'll get a full-blown packet. Everything you need to know. No risk, no obligation, no nothing. It's just free, and it'll get sent to you, and you can do your own homework. So text JOBOB to 989898. Protect your savings against the government sabotaging the dollar and the value of the U.S. dollar by investing in gold today. Do it today, friend to friend. You need to do it sooner than later. But back to this. This is the story that everybody's been waiting for, especially in the comments section. I think people are going off on this whole non-citizens can vote in NYC. Let me read to you what is actually going on. This is from the New York Times, the liberal New York Times. Then we'll play this Jake Tapper clip interviewing. Jake Tapper, by the way, found his cojones in the last couple months, going in on China a couple weeks ago, and now stepping up to the Democratic leadership in New York City. But maybe we'll talk about a little more of that after this. This is from the New York Times regarding the non-citizens can vote in NYC. More than 800,000 non-citizens, I love this term, and dreamers, which is a made-up term that we shouldn't continue using. If you continue to speak their language, they're just going to use it to kick you in the butt later down the road. But 800,000 non-citizens in New York City will have access to the ballot box and could vote in municipal elections as early as next year, after Mayor Eric Adams allowed legislation to automatically become law on Sunday. So yesterday, newly minted New York Mayor Eric Adams, who I think is a good thing. I don't agree with him on a ton of stuff, especially this. But he's a law and order guy, and we'll get to the whole law and order DAs and woke New York in a second. But this I do not agree with him at all. He allowed it to become automatic law on Sunday. Opponents have vowed to challenge the new law, which the city council approved a month ago. Unless a judge halts its implementation, New York City will be the first major U.S. city to grant widespread municipal voting rights to non-citizen voters. The New York Times, again, the lefty advocate outlet that they are, went on to include this. More than a dozen communities across the U.S. already allowed non-citizens to cast ballots in local election, including 11 towns in Maryland and 2 in Vermont, which would mean more than a dozen. So I don't understand when people say more than a dozen. Just give me the number. More than a dozen has to be somewhere between 13 and 24, because if it were over 24, they'd say 2 dozen. So just tell me what the number is. It's not that hard. And I think they just did it right here. 11 towns in Maryland and 2 in Vermont. Okay, so 13. Just say 13. You don't need to say over a dozen. So apparently 13 towns across the United States, which is not a lot. There's like 3,500 municipalities in the United States. So it's not like that's making waves, but also super small communities, probably super woke, super lefty communities already have this. But finally, I guess it's going to be tested on a big scale. Maybe and hopefully the Supreme Court will knock it down for everybody, because that is insane. Non-citizens should not be able to vote in the United States. That undermines the entire thing of citizenship. That undermines the entire part of being a citizen. Listen to Jake Tapper grill Mayor Eric Adams of New York City on this. Again, Jake Tapper found his man parts the last couple months. Got a little bit partisan, Jake. Got a little bit partisan under the whole Trump administration, and fortunately, he's pushing back on some of this crazy stuff. Listen to this from CNN.
Doesn't the bill just make a mockery of the idea of American citizenship, though? I mean, this is just for local elections, but does that mean, like, next New York City is going to want non-citizens to vote in federal elections? I mean, and what do you say to all the people who went through the process, the difficult process of becoming an American citizen, studying for the test, swearing an oath of allegiance to the United States of America, who now see this legislation just saying, well, anyone who's here, you can go ahead and vote?
Well, I say to them, keep doing it. Membership has its privileges. Being a member of what we call the United States of America is a great privilege. And I would tell them, keep doing it, be encouraged. This is a great opportunity to be a member of this great country. Don't let anything daunt you or take you away from that mission. This legislation is not going to do that. Keep becoming a citizen of this country.
Okay, so that didn't at all answer the question that Jake Tapper had. Jake Tapper was saying, doesn't this diminish the idea of citizenship in the United States? Yes, it does a lot. Obviously, people can't vote in federal elections because, I don't know if you know this, but the Constitution says that citizens can vote and nobody else, so there's that. But the rule is absolutely ridiculous in that anybody can vote in the New York municipal elections. And the rule also says you have to live here for 30 days, so not a long time. It would be interesting if some organization decided to pack some buses full of students and right-wing advocates and sent them to New York for 30 days and voted in the next New York municipal election. I wonder how that would shake things up. Yeah, your law is dumb, and it's going to come back to bite you if you don't replace it with something more reasonable. And also, 800,000 is not a small number. There's 8 million people in New York, so 10%. You're going to increase the voting block by 10%? Yeah, if only. The only reason they're doing that is because it would clearly give liberals and Democrats an advantage, and they think that they can trust the votes of non-citizens to vote for them, which would be, I don't know. I don't know that would entirely work out for them. I've got a lot of friends who are, I know a lot of people. I was with one of my best friends yesterday, and his wife is going through the immigration process. If she's allowed to vote, being a non-citizen, why go through the process? One of my other best friends is not a citizen of the United States, is here, and why go through the process? Seriously, if you can have the same say in elections and in what the United States is doing, why go through the process? And my argument would be maybe this is a good argument for restructuring the terrible, bogged down, bureaucratic slug system that is the immigration system. We have no problem. Nobody has any problem with immigrants, and nobody has any problem with granting people who are going to work hard and add to our society. Nobody has any problem with those people becoming citizens. Maybe instead of just letting them vote, why don't we use resources and ramp up the whole becoming a citizen process? Becoming a citizen in the United States is very difficult and very time consuming. Clearly. So maybe, again, instead of just letting non-citizens vote, maybe we should take that drive and put it towards making an effort to make citizenship become easier and not going through this slog of bureaucratic nonsense to become a citizen. How about we focus our efforts there? That seems like a chance. How about we focus our efforts on making people who want to be citizens become citizens easier? Bureaucrats, bureaucracy. Get this. This is DAs who won't prosecute. I live in California, affectionately named California, if you didn't actually get that gist. I live within the proximity, not in the district or the county, of District Attorney George Gascon, who has not prosecuted anybody for anything at any time and never will. He's more focused on racial inequality, which I'm not entirely sure that's why you elect DAs. But another super woke DA popped up in Manhattan. You are not going to believe what this guy is doing. If you live in New York City, move. You all had that whole thing over the weekend saying people are fleeing blue states, which is true. But you're not going to believe what this New York district attorney is doing. And I'm going to tell you about it right after this. Unfortunately, inflation is through the roof. So here's the thing. You've saved your entire life. I've saved my entire life. I'm not really close to retirement yet, even though I'd like to be, but I've saved my entire life, and I'm worried about my savings getting diminished by the value of the US dollar. The Biden administration is going to put more and more money into the system. There's a bunch of money that isn't even earmarked. They're just going to spend it somewhere, which, guess what? When there's more physical dollars in the system, the value of your dollar goes down. However, if you have precious metals, a rare commodity, which again is not subject to government intervention, if you own precious metals, you're going to be inflation proof, or at least as inflation proof as you can be. So if you have a retirement account, if you have an IRA, if you have a 401k, you can transfer those savings into a gold-backed IRA. And you can do that through our friends at Birch Gold. If you don't know how to do any of that sort of stuff, you can't blame you. It's complicated. It really is. But our friends at Birch Gold have made it super easy for you. If you're going to protect your savings, which I hope that you will, you can text JOBOB to 989898. That's Jobob to 989898. And our friends at Birch Gold will send you an entire pamphlet of everything you need to know when it comes to investing in precious metals, and also using your existing retirement account, your IRA, your 401k, whatever you've got, and converting it to a gold-backed IRA. Again, they're not necessarily telling you, hey, you should buy physical gold, even though I don't think that's a bad idea. But your already existing retirement account, it can go entirely into being backed by precious metals, the most inflation-proof commodity there is known to mankind. So you can text JOBOB to 9898, get a no obligation, no risk, no nothing pamphlet that tells you everything you need to know about investing in gold to protect your savings and your family's savings. Do it today. Seriously, I'm gonna keep pushing this because it needs to be done, and you need to do it. So DAs,
with just days on the job.
Oops, sorry about that. Playing that little clip. You know what? Actually, we're just gonna play it. Listen to this clip from one of the news outlets talking about the woke DA that just got elected into New York City, Manhattan specifically.
With just days on the job, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is changing how some crimes will be prosecuted. It fulfills a campaign promise Bragg says is informed by his upbringing in Harlem and personal experiences, both confronting and upholding the law. In a memo to staff, offenses like marijuana misdemeanors, prostitution, and fare evasion will no longer be prosecuted. Bragg says the changes will allow attorneys more time to prosecute violent offenses.
Obviously, there's going to be a government response. But for fare evasion, it's not going to be incarceration, not in Manhattan.
The new guidelines are framed by principles including investing more in programs to keep offenders out of jail, reducing the pretrial jail population, limiting the number of youth tried as adults, and providing more programs to those returning home after incarceration. The Police Benevolent Association says it has, quote, serious concerns about the message these types of policies send to both police officers and criminals, adding it will, quote, look forward to discussing these issues with District Attorney Bragg.
Alvin Bragg says he welcomes the discussion. Now, these policies really mark a major shift for an office that's earned a reputation of being heavy-handed when it comes to criminal justice.
Dan has the most recent comment here, and I couldn't agree with you more. Lock their asses up, you idiot. Seriously, that's the only real thing I can say here, because apparently they're decriminalizing crime in the city of New York. Now, there's a bunch of different philosophies when it comes to keeping a city safe. I would say that the most effective, if you're a fan of more modern history, the most effective crime-stopping policy came with Rudy Giuliani and the whole no broken windows thing. Basically saying, if you crush small crimes, you're going to crush bigger crimes. And for a lot of, it mostly worked. Obviously, there's going to be crime places. There's no getting rid of crime, but reducing it and providing a safe environment for the citizens of your community starts with stopping the small crimes. And I think that's been proven over and over and over and again. The broken glass philosophy, no broken windows philosophy seems to be the most effective way to keep a community safe. Alvin Bragg, the new district attorney in New York, is doing the exact opposite of that, saying that, well, rather than prosecute all of these small crimes, that's not working. It's clearly not working. Well, they haven't been doing it for a long time, so that's probably one of the reasons. But rather than prosecuting the small crimes in New York City, we're just not going to prosecute any of those small crimes, and we're not going to prosecute any of the medium crimes either. We're only going to prosecute people if they murder someone. Good time to be an amoral person in the city of New York. Talking about fare evasion, too. Everybody rides the subway in New York. If you're not familiar with that city, everybody rides the subway. And if you're riding the subway, why on earth would I ever pay at the turnstile anymore if I'm not going to get arrested? Now, maybe he was saying, he went on to say stuff too. I watched a big interview with him. He said, well, we're going to give him tickets. Oh, okay, cool. So give him a ticket. Great. That totally works in cities like Los Angeles, where they give homeless people tickets all of the time, yet they still poop on the streets. Again, the whole broken windows, the whole no broken glass, no broken windows policy seemed to be effective a lot. You don't let any of the small crimes go, and guess what? Criminals get scared and they don't commit the bigger crimes nearly as often, and you provide a safe place for your community. Instead, Alvin Bragg in Manhattan is doing the exact opposite of that and says, well, we don't need to prosecute any of the small crimes. We're just going to prosecute the big ones. The people only serve jail time if they kill another person. Okay. Good luck with that, New York City. But here's the growing overall problem. The super woke left, and I would include George Soros in this, is now funding DA races. They've realized they can't get big offices in terms of being super, super woke. Now, the governor of California and some super blue cities around the country tend to be an exception to that rule. But what they're doing is funding super woke district attorneys, because I've been in politics for the last 10 years. I know everything there is to know about my local elections. I could not tell you a lot of the policies of the DAs that run in the areas that I live. And I'm in politics. Can you imagine the people that aren't paying a lot of attention? They're just going in, and whoever has the best bio, whoever has the coolest name, or whoever they've seen the most signs for, they're just voting for them for district attorney. I think the super, super woke left, George Soros-backed lefty politicians who have these woke ideas that will never work, I think they've realized that nobody pays attention to the district attorney. They pay attention to the governor's race. They pay attention to the state senators. They pay attention to Congress. They pay attention to federal senators. But district attorney has quite a bit of power, and nobody seems to be paying attention to that specifically. So let's spend a bunch of money and get these crazy woke people, Chesa Boudin in San Francisco, Alvin Bragg in Manhattan, George Gascon in LA. Let's get all of these super woke DAs to actually have a lot of power, but people don't really pay attention to them. Let's get them into office. Let's spend some money to do that. That is a big problem that I think America needs to confront. And if you are a voter, which I'm sure all of you are, I think this is a wake-up call to make sure you know what your local DA is going to do, because you don't want Toledo, Ohio to become New York City. Just a fact. You don't want that to happen. You don't want your DAs not prosecuting people for crime and not doing anything about it. Let me see. I want to get to some headlines. A couple different things. This is kind of a new segment, just kind of close the show, round it out. Meta, Facebook's parent company, is moving to Texas, or at least taking up a ton of office space in Texas. Weird. Isn't that weird? The business climate in California not good enough for you? The super, super woke California policies not all that great for you, Zuckerberg? Meta, the owner of the Facebook company, leased half of what will be Austin's tallest skyscraper, making the social media giant the latest major business to expand in Texas. Meta is leasing 589,000 square feet across 33 floors, a spokesperson said on Sunday, confirming reports earlier. So they're going huge in Austin, Texas. What else happened over the weekend? Bob Saget passed away. America's Funniest Home Videos, Full House comedian, 65 years old, in a hotel at Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, Florida. There's that story. Condolences to his family. He was one of my favorite comedians. I liked the... My wife wasn't a huge fan, but the raunchiness of Bob Saget's stand-up in contrast with his Full House, I thought was absolutely hilarious. So will be missed, Bob Saget. Also, Florida story. Check this out. AOC got COVID. And guess what? I do not care at all. And given the fact that I don't care at all, even though she's vaccinated, boosted, wears a mask all over the place, unless she's partying. Unless she's partying, in which case she doesn't need to wear a mask. But AOC got the COVIDs, and I do not care. Guess what? She will be fine. She is young and healthy. I disagree with her on dang near everything, but she is going to be okay. And I do not care. Any other big headlines come over the weekend? Joe Biden gave a speech in Colorado with all the wildfires that were going on there. Inconspicuously, he started talking about windmills. I didn't want to pull that up because I didn't want to spend too much time on that, but just another pretty clear indication that Joe Biden has lost his marbles. And this is not, I don't like making fun of it. It really is just sad. He's pretty senile at this point and not good for the country overall. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be, I'm going to be in Phoenix, Arizona on TPUSA Live today. Got some pretty fun announcements if you want to check that out at 2:30 Pacific time, 5:30 Eastern time on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you watch live feeds. If you don't already, I would love a follow on any of your social media platforms, Instagram, Jobob. Just type in Jobob anywhere. We can connect there, talk about stories. People send me stuff all the time. I've got this one friend who sends me stuff like 4 or 5 times a day, and I use probably 1 or 2 of them every single day on this show, just things that are happening. So the best way you can do that is follow me on social media, Jobob, Jobob. You can find me anywhere. Would appreciate a follow and being able to discuss things further even after we're off the air. Let me see. Any other announcements there? Yeah, headed to the airport. Going to go on TPUSA Live later this afternoon. Got some fun announcements coming up for you there. Go buy gold. Support our sponsors, Birch Gold. Text JOBOB to 989898. We'll see you tomorrow from a snazzy hotel room in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. See you then. God bless America. Hold on, pause. Laura said, are you on Gitter? Yes, I am. At JOBOB. You can find me there. Thanks so much. God bless America.